Well, good evening, everyone. It's 6 o'clock, and we'll go ahead and get the meeting called to order for the Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting, May 8th. We have a couple of absences this evening, Commissioner Dr. Miller and Commissioner Bates. But we do have a quorum to go ahead and start our meeting. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, our next item is citizen comment period. We have no citizens in attendance, so we'll go ahead and move on to item number 4. 4A, approval of the minutes for April 10th, 2024, Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting. Those minutes were handed out or passed out in your packet. Is there any edits or comments to those meeting minutes that Marissa needs to know? Do I have a motion for the approval of the meeting minutes?
I make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes as reported.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The meeting minutes have been approved. Item 4B, this is an item that we discussed at our last meeting. It's for the proposed amendments to the ordinance number 13-032023, section 2.04 .02. It's a natural features overlay. The amendments and that were proposed were handed out in last meeting's packet, but is there any other comments? I know last month there was we had Bryce here from the planner that helped us put together these amendments for the natural features overlay. I think if you don't have a copy of those corrections or edits that are being proposed, I could kind of go through them if you like. But is there any questions or comments to the proposed natural features overlay that's being proposed? That I think, Nancy, I know we're talking about our next steps for the proposed amendments. It's basically, we would have to, there's a process to get there's a public process, so we have to set up a public hearing. And I know with that, there's some time and research for that. So I think at this time, is there any comments or edits before we kind of discuss our next steps to the amendments that are being proposed?
Just to be clear, the reason that we're having to take certain steps is because if it passes, we have to revise the ordinance. And therefore, we have to go through public hearings, not only for P&Z, but also for council, once it gets moved to council. And then, so that's where the process comes in.
That's correct. Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay.
Would require a public hearing before planning and zoning, and then one before the city council. There is a notification process with this.
I open up to the floor if anyone has any comments or questions. Basically, I guess at this point, if we have no comments or questions.
Chairman, I
Yes.
just want to say, I think, I don't have any questions, but I just want to comment, I think Bryce explained it pretty well last month, so I reviewed it again today, and it still stands clear to me.
Thank you. Yeah, Bryce did a very good, did an excellent job in explaining some of the proposed changes. I think it provides a very clear understanding and what the intent is of the NFO overlay district. I think right now what staff needs is a direction on to move the process, to get the process going. And like Nancy mentioned, it will take some time for the city to research and put together the notices. I would entertain a motion. Do we, Marissa, just so would you need a motion?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to have city staff move forward with the process, with research and notifications, et cetera.
So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes, so we'll get the process going with staff. Thank you. All right. Moving on to item 4C. This is an item that was tabled at the last planning and zoning meeting. The item is the Garden Ridge Walkable Community Workshop report findings related to the speed limits and marked crosswalks. So basically, back in last year, the city, in partnership with the Alamo Area Mobility, did a walkability workshop study for the city. And this is an item that has been requested to be discussed and so we have some in specific in in relation to that workshop. The commissioner that brought this item up would like to discuss the speed limits and the marked crosswalks that have been recommended in the report that, and of course this report was in your packets from the last meeting, so it wasn't provided again just to try to save some paper, but that report is available and hopefully and then Commissioner, there was a handout that was provided to everyone from Marissa regarding some of the explanation on some of the items to discuss. I guess I'd like to turn this over to Commissioner to maybe elaborate a little bit more and
Yeah,
bring this-
thanks very much,
You're welcome.
Chair Jockman. So, as Chair Jockman said, the walkability study was done last year, actually quite some time ago, and AMPO, the Alamo Area Metropolitan Organization, came up with some recommendations out of that walkability study that we should take to reduce the speed limit and also to help residents and contractors and everyone to stop at three-way stops. And so with that in mind, I guess I'd like to start by asking, has everyone had the opportunity to read my okay, great, my read ahead? So as you're well aware, the table that was provided in the workshop report specifically talked about the speed limit reduction from 30 to 20, and if you had an opportunity That's on, I'm sure you have, that's on page 8, where it talks about driver behavior. So, actually, it doesn't specifically say speed limits of 30 miles an hour within neighborhoods are too high. In a different paragraph, it calls out the reduction of the speed limit. In any event, so what I'm looking for, since you've had the opportunity to review this, is for myself and possibly another commissioner or two, depending on the interest level, to look at this further, work on this, and then potentially make recommendations back to the commission. So it's part of the justification piece, which I think you've had a chance to read. I've been in communication with Matthew Marino, who was the Model transportation planner for AMPO, and Garden Ridge being kind of a sleepy Bedroom Hollow community for years, we as residents don't have sidewalks. We don't have lights above our streets, and so as far as our residents and our residents, share the roadways with vehicles, albeit whatever kind it is. So with a lack of those sidewalks and lighting, where I live, over in Garden Ridge Estates, I see children in strollers. I see walkers, I see dog walkers, bicycles, people on bicycles, and so we're all sharing these same roadways with vehicles. And again, understanding we want to maintain a rural character of the neighborhood, I just think that we probably won't get sidewalks. We won't get. Ultimately, we possibly could, but because we're grandfathered, I don't think we'll see sidewalks or lighting. But these two measures, reducing the speed limit and installing crossbars, I think is a reasonable solution. So to protect both the people that are operating vehicles and to protect the pedestrians. And one of the items that Matthew brought up to me is the two measures would increase compliance at stop signs, reduce crash severity for all transportation modes, increase vehicle reaction time, having a reduced speed limit and crossbars, and then increase pedestrian comfort and safety. And that's really an important point, I think, is the security of our neighborhoods. So, having said all that, again, I was hoping I could get the Chairman Jocham and the commission to allow myself, and if there's another interested commissioner, to go forward in pursuing reducing the speed limit and the stop bars, keeping in mind that the reduction of the speed limit, and I had a couple of action items that I think I put in my notes, would be one, I'd have to work with the police department, and then additionally, state and local agencies, because it's going to take that to be able to reduce the speed limit from 30 to 25 or 20, depending on what we're allowed actually to do. And then if Marissa could perhaps, and I greatly appreciate, Marissa, you sending out the read ahead, if she could put up the picture that I sent, the photo I sent at my intersection, my three-way intersection, right there, thank you. And so what you can see right there, if just a little bit further up, Marissa, thank you. Okay, so that is what's called a stop bar, right there at that stop sign. Yeah, that's a stop bar. And you can see, I mean, at one time, they were there, but now they're faded. And of course, if this is ultimately approved, stop bars are approved, it is going to cost the city dollars, if you will. The cost will be to repaint or paint those stop bars. So there'll be labor and material associated with that. So does anybody have any questions for me regarding what they've read in the read ahead and what you've had the opportunity to look at in the AMPO's report?
Any questions? Oh, Karen?
You? Go. Okay, let me just ask about the fact that there are already stop bars. I don't, well, let me see how to phrase this. Okay, that's actually like in your neighborhood, and you said it was Garden Ridge Estates?
Right.
That seems to be a situation of maintenance, because there's is that the only place there's one, or are they all over your neighborhood?
They're all over the neighborhood.
Okay, so, and if you can't see them or they're fading, that's an aspect of maintenance, I would think, because the city would have already decided to put those there, correct? Okay. The other point is, if we pass this, would this apply to all the gated communities in the city? And if it is, then I don't think it would cost the city to put the stop bars. It would cost the individual HOAs. Is that not correct?
That is
Okay.
correct.
Okay, so that makes the cost a little bit less, because we have all of a sudden a lot of gated communities. So, so that's a good thing. But getting these repainted and stuff, I think, can happen without even, delaying it through this, because they're already there.
Well,
And if they're faded,
yeah,
they need to be.
there's one there, Karen. There are two, so that is the intersection of Hickory Bend and Cedar Branch. So that particular crossbar is in place. The stop sign going up, Hickory Bend and coming down, there are no crossbars there
At stop signs.
at the stop sign.
Okay, so then that's where this will pick up, but you could talk to the city about possibly scheduling the maintenance of the ones that are currently there, which would already help.
Well, so
but-
let me make a comment on that if I could.
Okay,
So, a couple of years ago now, I think it was, I did ask the City Public Service, City Public Works, about these particular crossbars at intersections. And so there's a form, a general form that you can fill out and submit that goes to our city public folks. And that one was given to Chief Eberhardt, and Chief Eberhardt responded back me directly in an email and said that because of the cost and the labor, that they wouldn't be doing that. So this walkability study, Karen, seemed like an opportunity. No, I can send you the email, but this walkability study and the recommendations from the walkability study, specifically reduction in speed limit and the crossbars, seem like an opportunity to resurrect this issue to get it done. And speaking of the HOAs, I think you may know this, but George Ranch has written into their bylaws a provision whereby the city of Garden Ridge, our police department, can go into that neighborhood and cite speeders in that neighborhood. I understand that the Woods, which is off of Back Cave Road, is now pursuing the same provision to change their bylaws so that the police department can go into their neighborhood because they're experiencing speeders as well.
By discussion we've already had, seems to me that it's a multi-pronged, multifaceted thing, then we're going to take multiple bites of the apple to get this done. If we don't have the buy-in of the police department, which sounds like the way you put it, we got to get past that hump first.
Correct.
Hold on. Yes, Nancy.
I may be able to put a little bit of clarification into this. This does appear to be a maintenance item to me. Those types of items, I will work with Public Works on seeing about getting the crossbars repainted. I was not aware that that had been forwarded to other departments. Those types of maintenance things really should come to me, and I will make sure. So I can most likely take care of this. Now, it's not going to happen in a short period of time, and I don't know that every stop sign on the public streets in Garden Ridge has a stop bar, so there will need to be a little work on that. but I can manage to get some maintenance done on the stop bars. So I really don't know that that needs to be something that, I mean, that's something that can be internally taken care of.
And Nancy, if
Now-
it can, I'm fine with that, thank you.
Now, private subdivisions are gonna be responsible for putting their own stop bars by stop signs. George Ranch, or the city provides traffic law enforcement in George Ranch. George Ranch came to the city of Garden Ridge many years ago and asked for that. The city granted it. There have been a couple of other neighborhoods, private subdivisions over the years that have asked about it and never pursued that. So the public streets, we can take care of getting those crossbars painted. So I don't know that that really needs to be a subcommittee or an item that really needs to be of concern to planning and zoning. I will have those discussions.
Nancy,
that
I
help
agree. Thank you for, for taking that up. I agree that I don't think we need to take that one up with the P and Z to make a recommendation, because you're right, and Karen brought it up, you brought it up. It's a maintenance issue. If we can get that maintenance done, and it might primarily be just within Garden Ridge Estates. I know that Chief Everhart has told me where he lives at his intersection, he has the same problem I do. They run the stop sign and right there in front of his house. So there's that issue. As far as the speed limit, though, I really would hope that we would be able to discuss that further, because you may have seen in my notes, the businesses that I have seen run right at that intersection where I live is Republic Refuge, Davy Tree Experts, Ryder Truck Rental, not people that are leasing the Ryder trucks to use them for moving, actual people with Ryder truck shirts that come through, contractors all the time, other lawn service companies, and then healthcare providers that provide healthcare on an individual basis, and of course, Garden Ridge residents. And when I'm talking about the speed limit, I'm not talking about them doing 30. These people are going down, either coming down Hickory Bend Drive or going up, and they're doing 35, 40, 45. And I see Gwen shaking her head over there. I think she can probably relate to seeing a lot of that. So, but anyway, so thank you for that, Nancy, for the first one. What about the second item?
Excuse me, let me
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, please.
Let me
Dr.
clarify
Nolan.
where I was going, and it's already been spoken to. As the city manager, certainly Nancy has the right to just say, okay, we're going to do the maintenance.
Right,
As respect for the police department, the excuse he gave you didn't sound very strong excuse. I'm saying, what's that all about?
Right.
Other than, so maybe there's something else. I'd still like to find out why the chief of police was against it. And it's still going to be several parts to it, because the maintenance part is just the first part. That's the easiest one. That's
Right.
low-hanging fruit. Okay, well, potentially low-hanging fruit. You still got cost and the labor that goes along with it. Certainly, Nancy knows time. Nancy knows how busy the public works is to do that. But then the next step in my mind was the intersections that don't have one, get some put there, and recommend they put at the stop signs there. And we don't know what that cost is going to be, okay?
It's just painting of the line.
But paint costs money, Nancy.
I realize that.
They have to work it in the budget.
And now it's budget season, so I'm saying the first piece I'd like to see possibly get done, pushed through this year. And then the other part I was piecing of was the HOAs. We can ask, I don't know how to put this, you can't, I guess we can, if we made it an ordinance and they had it, they have to come along and put them in. But if it's not in an ordinance somewhere, they can say, we don't have the money in our budget to do it this year, and they can push it down the road, okay? And so for the HOAs, it may be a recommendation we can make this year and not take it any further. Nancy?
We may not be able to force the HOAs to put the crossbars in because those are private streets.
There you go.
And we are not enforcing traffic in some of those subdivisions.
Okay.
And again, now that we've had this conversation about stop bars, it makes sense that if there is not an HOA, like there is not in Garden Ridge Estates, that it would make more sense to work with our city on
If
getting that
it's
taken care of.
not a gated or a private community.
Right.
Typically, our private communities are the gated communities.
Correct.
Then those streets are considered public,
Okay,
and the city would be responsible for those. I would need to have Public Works also assess or do a survey of how many stop sign locations there are in the city that do not have the crossbars.
makes sense, Nancy. And again, I'm on board with everything you just said, you know, it is a maintenance issue, and if the city can look into that and figure out what we need to do to get that done within the public streets, great.
And
Scott?
certainly, I agree with the way you've outlined it. Being involved with the HOA in the area that I live, I know one of the first things we're gonna ask is how much does it cost? Okay?
But your public streets. I think
You're-
your
you're-
public
you're
streets.
absolutely right, you're absolutely right, you're absolutely right, you're absolutely right. I misspoke. But those that, you know, aren't public, they're gonna, the first thing they're gonna ask is how much it costs. We would have the background, once we did part one, we'd know how much it's gonna cost for the paint and labor, and say, this is what it's gonna cost. And they're gonna say yay or nay. That'd be the first thing. We can also say it has a recommendation of the police department and give the same figures you did for accidents and fatalities and stuff. And when I read that, I said, well, this is simple. We just reduce it as low as we can by law and save, you know, what was it, 45% of the fatalities. I don't know if we ever had one, but there's no sense waiting for one to happen before we make that simple change, that's all. That's why I was saying multiple steps. I don't see all of it being done this year, but the first low-hanging fruit, possibly, because we're here, it's budget season, so to speak, for the city. I know they're discussing stuff, and usually in June, and if we get things before them, as we have some of it already with the city manager being here, it's possible to get that low-hanging fruit addressed this year.
Okay. And I also agree with you, Karen and Nancy, that as far as those gated communities, I don't think we can do anything with them. They're, you know, they provide their own funding through their HOA dues to do the types of maintenance and things that they do. So I would actually rule that out. I don't even think we even need to consider them, do we, Nancy? Or should we at least?
Let me talk with our city attorney and
Okay.
police chief and see, you know, perhaps it could be something as simple as sending them some sort of a letter from the city, encouraging them to consider that
Okay.
as another means of
Safety.
safety
And I don't think that there's going to be that much pushback even from, say, Wild Wind or, you know, other gated community or Trophy Oaks. And it's just going to be a matter of timing because most HOAs have already set out their projects for 2024. But that doesn't mean that with a little time, maybe next year, that can be, that, you know, this can move forward.
Okay.
The crossbar issue. So
Sure.
I don't think it's dead in the water at the gated communities. I just think it's just going to take a little time.
That makes sense.
But I think it'll be a good way to maybe highlight some safety features that maybe some of the communities have not thought about. And because there are a lot of people that do walk in those gated neighborhoods. And I think it'll be good just as a recommendation and just, you know, hopefully some of those HOAs could implement those and within their budget if they so want to do that, so.
Agree. What about as far as the second issue regarding the speed limit, having an action item to meet with the police chief and talk to him about the reduction of the speed limit, as well as getting data? I know that there's data for my community about the number of citations that have been issued at that three-way stop for both speeding and running the stop signs. We could get that data to help support that position.
So what you're saying right now is in the public areas, like in the estates, the speed limit is 30,
Correct.
but people don't do 30. Well, okay, so I know that in the woods, the speed limit is a lot lower. In Trophy Oaks, it's already 20. The issue in our neighborhoods is people ignoring the speed limit. And when, then it brings on another because we always get comments from our residents. Why is there so much speeding through this, through this major, thoroughfare in Trophy Oaks? And even though the speed limit is 20. So we've been actually thinking that the speed limit sign when you come into Trophy Oaks is too close to the gate, that you can't, people don't pay attention. They're just getting through the gate and going. That we're looking at either moving that or placing another one in another area a little further down so that they know there is a speed limit. The unfortunate thing is the residents all know that the police can't give tickets in there. So what are you going to do? We go, stop, slow down. What good does that do? So that would be another issue to pick up. But the good news is it's already 20
Okay.
in our neighborhood.
Wow.
And 19 in theirs.
Yeah, it's 19 in the woods.
So, at least that's a start. I know, 19.
And they're going faster than that. huh?
Yeah,
yes.
all the time.
Yeah. So, okay. What about Nancy's idea of what, George Ranch did years ago as far as approaching the city police department, the city and the police department about being allowed to patrol and issue citations? And, is that something that Trophy Oaks is considering?
That has to be approved by the association, by all
oh.
residents, a certain
okay.
majority of all
Can't
residents.
force,
No.
we
Okay.
cannot force the HOAs to come and
Oh, I see.
But it,
approach the council
Yeah.
for consideration on that. And if you'll note, when you drive through George Ranch, the speed limit in there is 30 miles an hour because that is on a public street, that's the minimum speed limit for a residential area. So,
But it can be lowered, correct?
Not
according
unless-
to AMPO and the study that they did, is that you
I have
can
not-
pursue getting
the
the speed
law
limit.
has changed somewhat. It used to be that you could not lower the speed limit without a major traffic study.
Oh,
And
yeah,
those were
right.
very costly.
Yep, that's right.
I believe that, I know there was some discussion about allowing cities to drop their speed limit in the last legislative session. I do believe it passed, but I'm not versed on what that particular law and the requirements are.
Okay.
That's some research that we would have to do.
Okay.
And we can do that. And that would take, I'm sure, council's action, but I don't know how entailed it's going to be and what kind of a cost may be associated with that.
And Nancy, would that be the city's responsibility, or would that be us as the commission looking into that?
If y'all want to form a subcommittee to research that, I don't see a problem with that.
Okay.
However, perhaps before you come back to P and Z, that subcommittee meet with me and maybe the police
Police
chief
chief.
to determine what y'all's findings are. So in case we have questions or need to do additional research, we can have that done before something is presented to planning and zoning.
That sounds like an excellent idea to me.
Yeah, I recommend that, like Commissioner Maloney, you mentioned that you would be one to be on that
Yes.
committee.
Yes.
And if there's another commissioner that would like to volunteer to join Commissioner Maloney.
I would volunteer. I'm assuming I
Dr. Miller?
can work with Commissioner Maloney. He's rather new, so I don't know him well enough, but
Okay.
I'd volunteer to work
Well, we'll
with
get to
him.
know one another.
Well, I
Nancy,
think it'll be a good idea, just,
the question I had, Nancy, did any of those laws change or application of those laws change with the city becoming a home rule city?
Very possible. That is another thing that we will have to look at.
Okay.
We're still learning some of the little nuances between converting from general law to home rule. So that is that's a very good point, Dr. Miller.
Well, let me just say I greatly appreciate the discussion and the interest. And Dr. Miller, you wanting to work with me as to present some findings to Nancy and the police department, Chairman
Yeah.
Jockman? So-
yes, thank you. And I guess once you meet and I recommend meeting with Nancy, like, then at an appropriate time, maybe bring this back to P and Z and present your findings. I think that'll be, Marissa, do we need a motion for this creation of the committee?
No, just,
Okay.
I was going to put it as a consensus. I didn't hear anybody
Right.
object to it, so
Yeah,
you're good.
perfect, thank you.
Thanks very much.
Well,
Do you have a comment, Gwen?
Just let me know what I can do to help as well, if you
Yeah.
need anything.
Thank you, I will.
Sure.
Absolutely. Thank you all so very much
I
for
do just
being
want to remind
engaged.
everyone that for TOMA, only 2 of you can be working together on a project at a time. So just be cautious about that.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Maloney. That's, these are great ideas to, and the first one is, I totally agree, it's a maintenance issue that I think Nancy will take up.
Yeah, I greatly appreciate Nancy's input on that.
Well, any other comments to, on the walkability findings and the items that Commissioner Maloney, presented? Okay, well, we'll move on to our next item, item 4E, 4D, I apologize. At the last city council meeting, basically, what was presented as far as for P and Z is concerned, were the recommendations that planning and zoning took up at the last meeting regarding the revival of special use permits. And so no action was taken by council since a public notice is being posted, and so there was not enough time between our meeting and city council to put that that public notice out. And so I think at the next meeting, at the next city council meeting,
The public hearing will occur at the June city council meeting.
June.
Yes.
and so at that time, they'll have the public hearing. So basically, I just reported our, how each item was voted, and there was no action taken by city council. It was just basically reporting our recommendations. There were no other items that I took note from last council meeting. Any questions on that? Okay. Item 4E, future agenda items. Is there any future agenda items that any of the commissioners would like to consider? I think we have, well, I don't know if we'll have on the next meeting a report from, I guess we'll see on that, and we'll play it by.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that, Doc Miller and I will have to get together and provide a plan ahead as what we're going to do, then meet with Nancy and the police chief, and then come back to you folks. So I don't know that that'll be at the next
Yeah,
P and Z,
so-
but I'll keep you Chair Jockman posted and Nancy,
Nancy.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Any other items that P and Z would like to discuss? Okay. Moving on to our next, E2 is our next P and Z meeting is on June 12th here at City Hall at 6 PM. And our next item is citizen comment period. We have no citizen here or any citizen attending. So Marissa, any written comments or? Okay. So our next item is I adjourn the meeting at 6:41. And thank you, and you all have a good evening.
Thank you so much, Nancy.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
And you're right, Nancy, I mean, you guys may find out that, yeah, at the intersection, at my intersection, yeah, it's needed to be done, but there may be other intersections on
Right.
those public roads